Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Andy Carvel, and I'm going to talk to you for about 10 minutes on the topic of mobile app onboarding. So a bit about me. I'm Andy Carvel. I'm co-founder of a company called Feature. We're a mobile growth consultancy based in Berlin. Prior to starting Feature, I was running mobile growth at a company called SoundCloud. Social sound platform for about 4.5 years there. And prior to that, I was a mobile game developer. I developed a few famous titles, including the Space Impact on the early Nokia devices. For those of you old enough to remember the Nokia 3310, it was the Space Impact was the first side-scrolling shoot 'em up. So yeah, a bit about Feature. As I mentioned, we're in Berlin. We're a mobile growth consultancy. We help B2C apps tackle a range of growth challenges, especially things like App Store optimization, retention, and increasing subscription revenue through data-driven optimization work. We like frameworks a lot, and we always use our mobile growth stack and ASO stack frameworks in our client engagements. So speaking of the mobile growth stack, I'm just going to dive right in. Today I'm going to be focusing on the activation element of the engagement and retention layer, and specifically the onboarding part of that, of that element. So when we think about, sorry, I'm just going to go back to that. When we think about onboarding, if we think about activation as being the user experiencing the value of the product for the first time, then onboarding is the process that hopefully unlocks that experience for them. It often involves some setup steps, such as creating an account or gathering information from the user in order to tailor their early experience within the app. And it usually also involves some reinforcing of the value proposition of the app to the user. And just a reminder of why we do onboarding, it's basically because of this chart. Users who don't onboard properly don't end up activating, and hence unactivated users will typically churn. The majority of users will churn after the first session if they're not onboarded successfully. This is why it's such a key opportunity and why mobile app developers put so much effort into improving their onboarding experience, even when the app has already been on the market for several years. It's typically something that gets revisited. So I've got a bunch of examples here that I'm going to run through fairly quickly. First of all, we've got Fastic here on the left. It's a intermittent fasting app. We've got Evernote in the middle and Dropbox on the right. I see some pretty terrible screenshots, but I have to assume that they've optimized them for conversion on the App Store. Otherwise, we should probably sell them some ASO. Anyway, this slide says it all really. A lot of onboarding problems come from a misalignment between promises made or expectations set in the user acquisition process or in the app stores. So you need to ensure continuity by delivering on the expectations that are set in the app stores, in your copy, in your screenshots, and reinforce that value proposition in the first session within the app. So if we think about that first session in the app, we can see it here from those 3 apps that I just mentioned. They're all doing a very good job here, that's why I picked them, of restating that value proposition. So with Fastic, it's reaching your goals, losing weight. With Evernote, saving important things, organizing your notes, and Dropbox, it's about being able to take your stuff anywhere, kind of freeing yourself from the hard disk or any one particular computer. So I've set out some onboarding best practices here. This is a sort of a combination of a lot of stuff that we've kind of observed as being kind of valuable best practice for building a solid onboarding experience. I don't have time to go through all of these in detail. Maybe we'll do a blog post about this and put it on the Mobile Growth Stack blog at some point. However, I've got an example in the next slide that calls out some of these principles, in action. And I would say that probably the key one here is the one that I've highlighted in bold, which is the one at the end. Pretty much all of these other principles are about building trust, right? Your onboarding process is your big opportunity to build trust with the user. So the Bird onboarding experience. Bird is a scooter app. They're available in many different countries. It's a pretty extensive onboarding. They've got a lot of legal notices, safety regulations, etc. A lot to go through. I think it could be improved by having a progress indicator to help people understand how far through the process they are. However, they do quite a lot right, which is called out on the left there. including using some great images and cool animations to demonstrate some key points. This is the Fastic app, and this is also quite a detailed, complex onboarding. Fastic does a great job of making the onboarding process fun, with cute animations, reinforcing the value proposition, and collecting lots of information from the user, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Users like being asked questions, and Fastic does it in a pretty cool way. They've got all these different ways of collecting data, sliders and date selectors and things like this. So it's not like a laborious experience. It's actually quite fun, and Fastic make it quite fun. And they're collecting a lot of information which they can use to then personalize and build a personalized fasting plan within the first session. And unlike Bird, the Fastic onboarding shows a progress bar to let people know how many steps they have left. This is definitely good practice. Now, still not finished, right? Like this is a continuation. I'm just going to zoomed in on the final screens in detail. So the previous steps that I showed on the last screen were all leading up to this, actually. So zooming in here, there's a few things I want to call out. First of all, they request permission to send push notifications with what we call a pre-permission prompt. Get ready to see a lot more of these in mobile app onboardings as people ask permission to show the ATT prompt to track users as part of the iOS 14.5 kind of rollout and the new privacy regulations from Apple. So it's quite a lot of apps are already doing this with push notifications, and I'd say it's best practice to pre-ask, as I would say, since iOS only lets you show the system prompt once. If they refused on the pre-permission screen, you can decide to not show the system prompt and then try again later if the user is still around in session 2 or 3, thus increasing the overall opt-in rate significantly. Now they restate the objectives, of the user to reinforce the user's motivation. In this case, it's to reach a goal weight of 65.2. This is information that at 65.2 kilos. This is information that it collected earlier on in the onboarding process. That's again, great best practice. Now they also try to upsell the user to a premium subscription. That's the second to last screen that you see here, towards the right. Now the jury's still out on whether you should try to introduce this kind of paywall during your onboarding flow. And it's not a hard paywall, which means that they would have to subscribe in order to get past. They can continue to use the app without subscribing, but it gives the user at least the option to subscribe early. Now I think that's probably the right call, because users will often be highly motivated when they've just downloaded the app, and if you don't give them the chance to subscribe, then a lot of them won't, and it can be harder to get them to get their wallets out later, metaphorically speaking. Obviously, they don't need to actually get their wallet out. So yeah, users might be highly motivated to pay at the point of onboarding. So there's a strong argument for at least offering them that chance. I think Fastic does this exactly the right way by doing it at the end of the onboarding process, which is better than hitting them with a paywall before they know anything about the app, which I have seen in a lot of other apps. Now, there's another argument which says maybe you should ask them later when they've already used the app for a week or two. And I would say it's worth testing both methods if you've got enough users to run these tests and get a significant result. Because your mileage may vary. But I think if you're going to put it in the onboarding, at least put it at the end. So some final tips or tactics. This is an example from Fishbrain where they use mobile in-app messaging to actually collect data from the user. So they've essentially extended or augmented their product onboarding experience with in-app messages, which they deliver through Braze. They actually send a push notification first, and then link users to an in-app message survey, which collects some information, which can then be used to segment and personalize their early experience within the app based on the intent that they've shown. You could also build this natively, just that Fishbrain happened to build it using in-app messages. And if you want to optimize your onboarding funnel, I'd suggest that you have to map it like this, which means that, in this particular example, these are the kind of different screens in the onboarding steps, and we can see the different drop-offs. These are the users who are kind of completing each step. And by kind of modeling your funnel in this way, you can typically identify where a lot of users are dropping out, and spend your a lot of attention on these areas with the biggest drop-offs. This is kind of generally how I would advise like tackling, optimizing a sort of already built onboarding experience. And finally, like, consider removing onboarding steps. In both of the examples that I showed there with Bird and Fastic, they were actually using a lot. They were using a lot of steps. Maybe too many. Fairly complex onboarding. If in doubt, take it out. And always consider that it's not just about how many people you get through the onboarding process, but also how those users are retained afterwards. So if you're going to test, one versus the other and take it out, I would advise looking at like your week 1 or month 1 retention, not just your onboarding completion rate. That's it from me. Now go kick some onboarding ass. And yeah, if there's any questions, hopefully I've been able to answer some of them during the session.